Hey, sports fans and friends, thank you for tuning in on the Shotgun Sports Network YouTube channel, Facebook, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please smash the like and subscribe buttons and hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we post new content. Welcome to episode number 3, I guess you could say, of Stampeders Roundup. If you missed the premiere episode, we had Scout from the Elks Call and Clay from Argos Fancast on to talk about CFL free agency. In episode 2, I had CFL and Calgary Stampeders legend Nick Lewis on, and we talked about how the Stamps appear to be shaping up heading into the season and what our expectations are. This episode, I decided to do something a little different. My friends over at the Elks Call have been doing best of moments from past shows, so I figured why not hop on board that train and also release a best of episode. But first, let's do the Calgary Sports Update, brought to you by Gametime Tickets. Sports fans and friends, are you tired of missing out on tickets or paying ridiculous prices for other guys' tickets? Gametime has your back. When you buy on Gametime, your tickets will be on time and authentic, guaranteed. If you find a lower price elsewhere, they'll make up 110% of the difference. Last minute plans have never been easier. Buy tickets, send them to friends, and get into the venue all from your phone. Head on over to gametime.co and enter promo code SAVE20 at checkout. Or in the Gametime app, go to your profile and redeem code SAVE20 and get $20 off your first purchase of $150 or more. Not spending $150 on tickets? Use promo code GameTime1019848 to get $5 off your first purchase. That's GameTime1019848 to get $5 off your first purchase. Check the links in the description. The Calgary Flames, of course, were eliminated from Stanley Cup playoffs a couple games before the end of the season, but that didn't stop them from making waves in the off-season or playoff season. A few days ago, the Flames made Matt Coronado one of the pillars of the franchise by signing him to a deal to the tune of $45.5 million over 7 years. For those of you doing the math, that's almost $6.5 million per season. The Flames are also well represented at the IIHF World Championship. Mackenzie Weegar and Zane Perek are playing for Team Canada. Rasmus Andersson and Michael Backlund are playing for Sweden. Dan Vladar and Adam Klapka are representing Czechia. And Sam Honzek will suit up for Slovakia. Matt Coronado was supposed to play for the U.S., but will no longer be participating after an MRI. The Calgary Hitmen were eliminated from the WHL playoffs in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Final. The Hitmen lost to the Lethbridge Hurricanes 3-1 in Game 7 at the Saddle Dome on April 23rd. The Hitmen did, however, earn themselves the Jim Donlevy Memorial Trophy as WHL Scholastic Team of the Year. The Calgary Roughnecks were bounced from the NLL playoffs after losing 16-12 to the Halifax Thunderbirds back on April 26th. The Calgary Cavalry Football Club sit with a record of 1 win, 2 losses, and 1 draw after 4 matches. The club lost their opening game of the season 1-0 to the Forge, then tied Vancouver FC 1-1 in their home opener. The Cavalry then lost 3-1 to Ottawa and finally got on the win column, beating York United 2-1 on Friday. The Cavalry's next match is this Sunday against the Halifax Wanderers. Sports fans and friends on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to be notified when we post content. And like and follow at Stamps Roundup on Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. In Stampeders news, the Stampeders announced that Karen Dommett has been appointed as the executive director for the 2026 Grey Cup Festival, set to take place in Calgary. Dommett brings extensive experience in organizing major sporting events, having previously served as the general manager for the 2024 Special Olympics Canada Winter Games in Calgary and held roles such as director of program and services at the Calgary Adapted Hub and manager of athlete services for the 2019 Canada Winter Games right here in Red Deer, Alberta. In her new role, Dommett will oversee the planning and execution of the 2026 Grey Cup Festival, which will culminate in the 113th Grey Cup at McMahon Stadium on November 15th, 2026. The event is anticipated to bring significant economic benefits to the city and surrounding areas, with projections estimated at $50 million to boost a $50 million boost to the local economy. The Stampeders signed a pair of Americans, linebacker Alex Howard and receiver Joseph Nagata. Howard concluded his college career in 2024, playing 13 games at Duke, recording 89 tackles for the Blue Devils, including 14.5 tackles for loss and added 6.5 tackles and 1 fumble recovery. Nagata signed with the National Football League's Philadelphia Eagles as an undrafted free agent in 2023 and attended Philadelphia's training camps in 2023 and 2024 and in 6 preseason games over the 2 years. He had 11 receptions for 163 yards. The Stampeders opened rookie camp on Wednesday, May 7th. Stampeders selected 10 players in last Tuesday's CFL draft. The top pick overall, Utah receiver Damian Alfred. In 14 games, including 28 starts at Syracuse, Alfred made 67 catches for 1,291 yards, an average of 19.3 yards per catch. His most productive season with the Orange came in 2023 when he had 33 receptions for 610 yards and 3 scores. That's going to do it for the Calgary Sports Update. Now, let's get to some best of moments.
Yeah, and I noticed you mentioned the 2013, the greatest day in Rider history or provincial history there. Not better than 89?
Well, for me it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but the reason is, while many will say the 89 Grey Cup was the most exciting game in CFL history, 43-40 for the Rough Riders at Skydome against Hamilton, this one was at home in front of 44,000 fans. And honestly, in 2003, when Saskatchewan hosted the Grey Cup, I mentioned we used to do things that the Riders don't do anymore, but we had a pep rally at the start of the season at Casino Regina in the show lounge. You ever been in the Casino Regina?
Yeah.
We packed the show lounge. We introduced the players one by one. It was like a college pep rally that you see in the movies. And I stood there and I said, and the Saskatchewan Roughriders will be playing in the 2003 Grey Cup. And people, they're like, are you high right now? Are you drunk? What do you mean? We're not going to get, there was a cheer, but it's like we would, in Saskatchewan, Jason, as you know, for years, we felt we couldn't have nice things, and nice things didn't happen to us, not only with the football team, but just with the province in general. Mm-hmm. That mindset's changed over the last generation, but we never got to that Grey Cup in 2003. Right. So to have been hosting in 2013 was mind-blowing to think that we'd even be in the game. And then it was not a close game. I think it was 45-23 was the final. The Riders just absolutely destroyed the Hamilton Tiger Cats that day. It wasn't even a game. Like at halftime, I think it was 31-5, 31-6. It was just an absolute demolition from the start to the end. So nobody's calling that the greatest Grey Cup game ever. Yeah. 89 probably was. But to have and the other thing is when you watch a Super Bowl or a Grey Cup, it's not one color in the stadium. It's 32 colors or more, right? Mm-hmm. It was all green that day. Maybe 100 Ticats fans that were there, that friends and family. The rest, it was Rider Nation on hand, biggest day ever in provincial history, and I got to call it. It doesn't get better than that. I mean, even Jim Hobson, I said to him, how do we top that in the new stadium? Because I don't think we can top it. And he goes, the only way the Riders top what happened in 2013 is if they win back-to-back Grey Cups. And because that's never before been done here. So, and it's a pretty lofty goal.
And probably more.
So on August 24th, 2017, you passed G. Roy Simon to become the CFL's all-time reception leader. Give us an idea how big that was for you. And did G. Roy actually reach out to you at all in any way?
Yeah, so he did a video. That day was crazy, first of all. But G. Roy did a video that they showed there, which was awesome. Me and G have been friends for a long time, and getting to work with him in BC a couple years ago was awesome, and getting to beat him in golf was even better. But yeah, he definitely reached out to me. But going into that day, I think I was 11 catches from the record or 10 catches from the record, and the CFL had said they went back and watched every catch, and they missed a catch. So I actually became one catch closer to start that day. That was the first message I read going into that day. Hey, you're one catch closer. I said, how many yards did I get on that catch? They said none. I said, no, that's not possible. How do you find the one catch that they didn't count and it's no yards?
So I got to ask you, when you're in a game like this, you're 10 catches away or whatever from the record. Do you guys actually, was it discussed to get Nick the ball a little more the closer you got to the record, or is that not coming to play?
No, not at all. I knew we had back-to-back home games. My mom was going to be there for both. So we wasn't pushing to do anything. We were playing Winnipeg. We were down. We made a big comeback late in that game. And, me and Darian just found a lot of comfortability towards each other. Like, Darian watched me play. He's like, man, I just feel like I just get you the ball. You're going to make the play, and then everything. And if you remember that drive, I'd called a pass for a first down, I think. And then I caught another pass on that drive. And then it was 3rd and like 6 or whatever it was. And I caught the pass for the first down to extend the drive to put us in the field goal range. And so it really just wasn't getting me the ball. It was really just how it was just playing out. Darren felt comfortable, getting me the ball in those situations on a 2nd and 10. I made the first down a couple times. And then it came out to that 3rd down. And I was actually rubbing for someone else coming across. They went to a zone. Darren found me. And so, yeah, wasn't even supposed to come to me, but we made it work.
Nice. So I'd say you got a few more good years. When you thought the 2014 Grey Cup was the end of your career, you played, 3 more years? Did you know it was over after 2017? Did you have a post-football plan in place? Yeah, so I knew that I was done with football. After 2015.
The elephant in the room, the Calgary Stampeders, terrible start. No kidding. So let's burst right into and address the elephant in the room. The Calgary Stampeders, terrible start so far, 0-2. What do you make of what's happened so far from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not the start that we thought it would have been. For me, we are the youngest team in the league, but I didn't think that was going to be a setback. I think if you really look back at 2 games in particular and really analyze them, the first game against Toronto was ours to win. Unfortunately, the first drive from us was horrible, and the last drive was horrible as well. If you take those away, I think that's really our game. We had scored more than Toronto did. They just got the touchdowns. We've been having a problem getting into the end zone, and that's been the story so far, I think, in the first 2 weeks, is just crossing that line. I don't know if they know what that line is. You just got to cross it. It gives you 6 points. I think that's been the main thing. Rene Paredes is automatic. He's been our leading scorer. He's kicked everything. So for me, looking at the BC game, I don't care whether it was Michael Riley going in or Nathan Rourke. You have to be prepared no matter who's coming into the game. And I think at the end of the day, our offense just hasn't been clicking. There's a couple instances in the game where I kind of questioned the coaching decisions. 2 of them, I believe we had a 3rd and 4 or 3rd and 3, and we kicked field goals. I wasn't sure why we didn't try to draw BC offsides. If we take the 10-yard penalty and don't draw them off, Rene is still hitting that field goal. So it kind of surprised me a little bit why you wouldn't just try to draw them, because we were right near the red zone. We were touching it. So that would have given our team momentum as well if we could just draw some penalties off of BC. And if you don't, then you kick the field goal 10 yards back and Rene would have hit them. So I wasn't sure why we didn't go for that. But that's kind of my analysis so far.
Yeah, there were actually, I believe, a couple instances as well where we were 3rd and 2 or 3, and I think even in one instance 3rd and 4 where we actually gambled. Once we made it, and I think the other 2 we came up short, but definitely some odd coaching decisions there. In the red zone, I believe there's at least 2 interceptions in the end zone, if I'm not mistaken, possibly 2 for sure. Bo Levi does not, I was going to say he doesn't seem to be on his game, but he got almost 300 yards passing against BC, and I think he was around 260 against Toronto. So it's not like he's not throwing the ball well. It's just not finishing in the red zone, I guess.
Exactly. That's what it's been for me, is that it's just been we've driven the ball, whether it's been good field position or not. It's just getting into the end zone that's been the biggest problem, because field goals aren't going to win you a game. And then our defense can only hold so much. They're kind of a new group. You got some veteran leaders on there, but some young guys as well. And there's only so much they can do when your offense just isn't putting up 6 points. So I think looking at Montreal, it's going to be a hard-fought game, but I think we could pull it out. Montreal's always kind of been an interesting team to go up against. Dave Dickinson's record against Montreal is 4-4 as a head coach. So we've had our wins, we've had our losses, but it's the 3rd week straight at McMahon, and if we lose 3 straight home games start the season, I don't remember the last time that's ever happened, or if that's ever happened. So that would not be ideal.
Well, I know I believe I heard them say on the Fan 960 that it's been even a while since the Stamps even started 0-2. So definitely not in a good situation. Talking about Montreal, was it a surprise that they handled Edmonton as badly as they did?
For me,
yeah, and you guys have come a long way, because I watched a few of your episodes when you, I think, first became a CFL fans, at least from what I could tell, and you definitely talk a lot more about CFL now, and you definitely know what you're talking about, and that's really impressive for Americans.
Well, and it's a good niche for us, right? I mean, there's so many like, and I'm in like groups with people, like there's so many like NFL, Bill's NFL podcast, Sam, whatever, we're watching, couch watching Sunday, whatever, all this stuff. Like, being an American podcast, they can talk about the CFL. It is a unique, I would rather be, it's the same with like weddings, right? Like in my business for weddings, like I would rather be like the best, most dominant, like wedding videographer. Like, I don't care about like destination weddings and traveling the world. Like, I just want to own the market that we're in. And it's the same thing with the CFL stuff. Like, that's something that's like really definable that we can do. And obviously talk about other alternate football stuff. And obviously, like, I watch the NFL every week. We talk about it when it's pertinent, but I would rather be one of 10 podcasts covering the CFL than one of 1,000 podcasts, trying to cover the NFL.
Yeah, exactly. Now you mentioned the market that you're covering. What made you choose the BC Lions? Is that strictly because you're in the market, or is there something else?
No, so we did a whole episode about it back early on. So Paul, my co-host, chose the Argonauts, right? Toronto Argonauts. Part of that, I think, was a little tongue in cheek with the MLSE of the whole thing with the XFL and how they were kind of the ones that were spurring that discussion. Rumor has it, a lot of the partnership talks were spurred by MLSE. So Paul chose the Argonauts. I chose the Edmonton Elks, who at the time were unnamed. I'm a Washington football team fan. So I really liked the idea of a team that has no name, right? The football club. Dave Campbell was one of the first guests we had of CFL Media on our show. Taylor Cornelius had played in the XFL for the Vipers with Jamie Elizondo as the offensive coordinator. They were going up to Edmonton. So there was a lot of things that really made sense for me to be an Edmonton fan. And so then, the season starts, when the XFL talks break up, Edmonton immediately said, thank God we don't want to have anything to do with the XFL. They posted their big statement. That soured me. They lost to the Ottawa Redblacks, the first week, who's the worst team in the league. They let go Derek Dennis and upset him. He's a friend of ours, friend of the show. And so we were on vacation in Hawaii, and I was just sitting there on the beach, and I said, all that the Edmonton Elks have really done since I become a fan of them is lose to the Red Blacks, piss off Derek Dennis, make fun of the XFL. And so Jim Mullen, president of Football Canada, is one of our longest time friends of the show. Obviously BC Lions fan, the proximity for us, with BC, I like Michael Riley. That was when the whole Nathan Rourke, Michael Riley, who is the quarterback of this team stuff was going on. And so it made a lot of sense. And then obviously we can travel when my schedule allows, we can travel to BC games. So that is the long-winded story of that.
Think those first two losses were a big deal. Like, I wasn't ruling them out. I'm happy for them when they win. It doesn't necessarily like ruin my day if they lose, but I will say I didn't think those first two losses were a big deal. Like, I wasn't ruling them out. There was too much talent. Where I began to worry was when they dropped to 2-5 after falling to Hamilton.
Yeah.
That was a weird game because Kamar Jordan went out in the first half, and you really saw how important he was to this offense because, like, Bo Levi Mitchell just was not good that game. And you could tell that he just didn't have the confidence. He didn't have that chemistry with the receivers. And that's where I began to really think they were in trouble. In part just because in a 14-game season, you don't have much time to recover, right? So, like, coming out of that loss, like, they just had no room for error. Or if they had room for error, they had 3 games against the Riders coming up. They could afford to lose one of them and still make the playoffs, but not get to second place. And that's ultimately what's happened. But they were a changed team. They had a bye week after that Ticats, and I honestly, like, the hard thing to do with CFL is talk coaching because it's such a weird sport. But I honestly do think if Dickinson said this, is that they, like, the coaches had some real long meetings trying to figure out what they were good at and how to, like, really focus in on what they were good at and cut out some of the things that were hurting them. And I think that, like, we've seen that. And again, it's not my job to tell fans what to think, but so they beat the Riders twice, then they went beat BC, and then they lost to the Riders, and I just couldn't believe the anger from some fans. Do you know how hard it is to beat? Like, the Riders are not a bad team. Beating a team three times in 4 weeks, I mean, that's tough in football. Like, that's like that. Football is so much about adjustments. Football is, and the losing team always has the advantage because they're the ones who goes and fixes things where the winning team doesn't have to. So I didn't think that loss. Like, that loss hurt them in terms of getting to second place. You want to see a home playoff game, but I think they're more than capable. So they've really, since that low point, the turnaround's been pretty remarkable. And I think that I think their defense is as good as anyone in the league. And I think that we are seeing progress on offense. And I think that this Red J. Beggleton addition is going to do wonders. I think it's really going to make a big difference.
Yeah, like taking those 2 out of 3 from the Riders. I mean, I was happy taking 2 out of 3. I honestly was not upset they lost the third game because I was just happy they took the 2. Exactly. And a couple of those games earlier in the season were very close games. I mean, how often does Rennie Paredes miss a 50-yard field goal, right? I mean, that's there's one game there, and then Bo Levi throws just a bad interception at the end of that BC game, I think it was, and those are two different results there, right?
And the Lions game in week 2, that was the one where he had the fractured fibula, which again,
right.
You can't say that it's a fracture, but I do think people thought he'd treated as if he'd snapped his bone. No, there was a little crack. He was back. He didn't do the full 6 games, but he had 4 interceptions. He was bad that game. The third Riders game, he had 3 interceptions. He was pretty bad that game, if I'm being honest. He's had a couple tough games, but it's just weird to me. I've honestly never really seen there are a lot of fans who just are waiting every time he makes a mistake just to jump on him. And this is a guy who he's getting better as the season goes on too. He was out for a year and a half. Football players are creatures of habit. He didn't have that routine. And he had surgery and then missed all of training camp because of a groin injury. Why was anyone expecting this guy to come in and look like the best player in the league right now? It just was never going to happen. And if you I'm not trying to, I'm going to sound like a jerk saying this, but if you understand anything about athletes, it's almost like they're often very boring people. They have to be up early. They have a routine. They work out hard. They eat the same thing. Losing that for a year for a guy in his 30s, was inevitably going to mean that Bo had a few growing pains this season. It honestly was. So it's if you know anything about athletes, it's understandable. And you can't actually look around this league. Tell me what quarterback's been great.
No,
has been fine.
Zach Claros.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, let's chat. You were talking
changes. I think in Saskatchewan, he said, people are threatening to return their season tickets, and it's. If you would have told me right now that the Edmonton Elks would be a more popular franchise with everything that they had going on midway through the season, I would be very surprised. But it doesn't seem like Calgary or Saskatchewan, things are not well in either of those markets.
Yeah, Calgary. I after last season when Bo left and Jake Maier didn't look too terrible, and I had high hopes for him this season. But yeah, Maier, he's kind of hot and cold, and it's been mostly cold, unfortunately. And they're not in a good place right now. And I really think that Maier is not the answer there, and that they may need to go after a big quarterback. So I hope they can hope they can do something in that quarterback position. Mind you, I do see a lot of drop balls in games as well. So I mean, it's all around. Everybody's got to take responsibility.
Well, it's got to be so disappointing for them because they really thought they had their answer. And we had Maier on preseason last year, and I said, hey, I want to get on your wagon right now because I saw big things. And he was, you had Bo Levi there forever, and he was, that's the next anointed prince here standing by. And yeah, I don't know if it's scheming, if it's the receivers not helping him out, if it's him, if the moment's too big now that Bo's not there and I don't have my safety blanket. I remember this, and now this is distant memories, but Tua is, killing it right for the Dolphins right now and everything else. But there was always that when Fitzpatrick didn't stay on with the team, it's is Tua still going to be Tua if he doesn't have a safety blanket there? Well, I think Tua has proved just fine here, but I don't know. Something's gone wrong. And Maier, I like him, and he certainly takes accountability, which I like, but something's not working out there.
Yeah. And looks like Bo's not really having the exact season that he probably wanted either. Injury trouble, of course, is most of the issue there, but he's looked a little shaky since coming back. He hasn't been back for very many reps. I think he played only a half last week, and I mean, he didn't look great. And he didn't look like Bo Levi Mitchell of 2-3 years ago. But what are your thoughts on Bo?
He's old, man. Like Bo, even when Bo, what was the stat? He had thrown however many picks even in the game before he got hurt back. And, they've kind of Frankenstein Hamilton, that is kind of Frankenstein this offense here to get, now they're third, they're one game away. You got to play Montreal. You never know. Cody's kind of the same way as Vernon, gets a little, wants to will his team, and maybe he'll throw a ball or two that he's not supposed to. But yeah, I mean, Bo's been fine. I was listening to that game when he came on, and the first pass was almost an interception, and then he kind of settled down a little bit. But it seems like they're going to do kind of a dual quarterback system here, getting into the playoffs. Because I don't think you can disregard Taylor Powell kind of for the work that he's done getting you guys to this point, and obviously with Matthew Shields as well being injured there off and on too.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned the Elks and what they've done in the last season, or maybe what they haven't done. What they have done is, in my opinion, Victor Cui's done a great job of bringing some interesting marketing to the game and some in-game experiences there at Commonwealth Stadium. But the Elks still struggling until Chris Jones starts Trey Ford, and then all of a sudden, bingo! That's the magic touch. What are your thoughts on Jones not starting Trey Ford a little earlier? Did he see something in Trey Ford that he didn't like perhaps earlier in the season, or what are your thoughts?
Well, it's weird to me that it was, Victor gets, a mutual departure,
Yeah.
I mean, you can take that either way if it was, how mutual that departure was. But, obviously he leaves, Trey Ford goes in. I've heard all sorts of rumors that, Victor Cui wanted Trey Ford and Chris Jones didn't. But I mean, Chris Jones was the one that drafted Trey Ford and specifically went out and got, they traded up to be able to get him. Like, it's coaching malpractice. It took this line to bring Trey Ford into the game, especially because he played with success last season before he got injured, and then played with success in the preseason this season before kind of everything was going on. So I don't really understand that. He was a similar guy I wanted to get on the show and kind of hitch my wagon to, because, like, here we went through the whole Nathan Rourke of it all. Like, here you have another stellar Canadian quarterback, and maybe he's not lighting up exactly. Nathan was kind of, the phoenix flying here to the sun as hot as you could. But here you have a guy, young guy you can build around, wants to be in the CFL. And yeah, I think there was some sort of personality issues there. Jones wanted him to play more of that wide receiver role, maybe short yardage, and Trey didn't want that. And I think he had turned down to try out in the States. I think it was with the Bills season before last, where they had wanted him in that role too. And so it's good to see him now. And I mean, they certainly saved their season, but if you had played him at the beginning of the year, or even 4 or 5 weeks in, you'd probably be in the playoffs.
Yeah. So do you see Chris Jones sticking around long in Edmonton, or you think they're going to try and get him out of town as soon as possible?
I think he looks like a coach of the year right now. I mean, yeah. Right? It's such a how you do lately. And I'll tell you, even not to keep going back to the Kraken, but we were very down on Dave Haskell season 1, comes back, gets the Kraken together last season. And, he was a nominee for coach of the year, comes out last night, standing ovation. Well, I mean, depending on how the season goes here, it's a very much what have you done lately. But I think for missing the playoffs, I think Edmonton has the most juice right now for missing the playoffs of any of these teams. I mean, certainly not Saskatchewan or Calgary.
Yeah, that's definitely the way it's looking right now. Well, I mean, we'll be playing in BC anyway, so it won't matter what's happening here.
It'll probably be rainy.
Yeah, well, at least you guys got a little bit of coverage where you're playing, right?
So tailgating, huge part of the Elks game day experience. Mentioned that you'd be people might recognize you from tailgates before the game. Give somebody who's never seen or been to a game, let alone to a tailgate party, an idea what goes on, how it all works, all that kind of stuff. Give us the tailgate experience in words, if you can.
Yeah, well, I mean, when it comes to the Edmonton Elks tailgate, everybody is there at least 2 hours before the game starts. Sometimes it's even 3 hours. Sometimes it's even more, depending on the day. Saturday games, you have people there early, bright and early, starting to get all set up.
Yeah, and for NFL fans, especially, if you've been down there, even into a college environment down in the States, you walk in around that stadium and, sometimes in the States, they start at 6 a.m., 8 a.m., wee hours in the morning. They start their cooking at the stadium. Here in Canada, we haven't gotten to hit that point up until the last 5 to 7 years. So, now on game days, you have college kids, you have, fans of every team walking up. You see the tents, you smell the barbecues, you see the red Solo Cubs, and everybody is going hard in that tailgate, having a blast, playing cornhole. You have sweet sponsors coming out. Even the RCMP had a tent out there this year.
We had a band this year.
Yeah. We have a stage with a little mini concert and everything. We do that right in Lot A on the west side of Commonwealth Stadium. And I know that you guys have a pretty awesome tailgate down there in Calgary as well. However, let's say with BMO Field, when we were just out there, they had a very small tailgate, and then they also had a section that they called tailgate, but it was more of like a fan fest, kind of like the Coors Light fan fest that they used to have at Commonwealth Stadium, or you guys might have one as well, but an area to go before the game, but it's not true tailgating, and they're still purchasing beverages and everything else. No, tailgating is right out the back of your vehicle, as you know, Jason.
Yeah, man, you got my mouth watering as soon as you said the word barbecue, man. We did attend the home opener the Elks had there against the Riders, and we tried to make it in time for the tailgating, but we didn't quite make it. The traffic was crazy, and by the time we found somewhere to park and walk to the stadium, it was almost game time. So unfortunately, we missed the tailgating, but it sounds like a hell of a time. And you guys definitely know how to do it, that's for sure. I've seen photos on social media, I've seen videos, and you guys definitely know how to do it, that's for sure.
It's always a big party, and we definitely encourage everybody that comes by to just come say hi. Between, of course, Arsenal and the Turf District podcast, we have Spirit of Edmonton, we have K97, and everybody's just more than welcoming to everybody else that just shows up to chat for a drink, some bite to eat, anything.
Well, and I mean, even talking about the Turf District, they put out a whole menu this year for their tailgate, because our goal is to just go ahead and feed as many people as possible. So on our end of things,
not a requirement, though.
Not a requirement as fans, right? We try to do the fan sided thing and to try to feed a bunch of fans and do it in kind of like sample sizes. make sure you go check out a bunch of other tailgating stalls if they're supplying food. But this year we even had a tailgate chili cook-off where we got what 25 around 20 to 25 fellow stalls on board. We got sponsors, and we made it a really, really big event. And I think that's probably one of the bigger tailgates that we've ever seen. And you broke it down, and you had fans and tailgaters all talking together. And the nicest part was breaking down the barrier and having that fun with everybody. And now going forward, we're going to be doing that every year. And the last thing I'm going to mention is we went ahead this year and we decided to smoke meats for almost every single tailgate. So we created this thing called the Herdy's Pop-Up. It's a play on RB. We smoked the meats, and we put a little bit of extra love in that food for our fellow fans this year. So it was really cool to do that. Very special. Next year, we're probably going to be doing much of the same, but we're also hoping too, right now, we're at 187 spots. We're really hoping that with more interest, we see it go beyond that 187, and maybe we start filling up the other parking lots as well.
That'd be the goal.
Yeah, that'd be great. And one thing that is really great to see at the tailgate that I've seen a lot of photos is you get so many fans from other teams as well there, and it brings everyone together really good. And I like seeing that within the CFL community. So that's really great to see.
No, you're right. A lot of at a Winnipeg Blue Bombers versus Edmonton Elks game, you see BC Lions fans.
Yes.
Or at an Alouettes and
you always see Saskatchewan fans.
Riders. There's always a Riders fan.
Fans are everywhere. So.
Maybe they'll go into hiding now.
I love it. Hey, you get to laugh and you get to say it, Jason. You get to say it.
So some news that came out in Elks land in the last week or so is the idea of closing. Now, because the Stampeders are my team, tell me if you're surprised what you're seeing out of Calgary, or if you think that's. I mean, it's been the way they have been since Bo left, so I'm not surprised. They haven't changed a whole lot. So, what are your thoughts on Calgary?
I'm disappointed defensively. I'm disappointed in how hot and cold they are.
Mm-hmm.
I love watching Micah Awe play. I love watching Cam Judge do his thing. That's secondary. You went and got DeMario. You went and got Trey Roberson, but Trey's gotten burnt so many times this season. It frustrates me because I know what Trey can do. The front line is not as aggressive as they should be. It's like you can send 3-4-man pressure all you want, but if you're not getting pressure, what's it all for? I'm so used to seeing them be aggressive, sending 5-man, 6-man, going to get the quarterback, stopping the run. It's not the same. So something about that defense is people want to say it's the quarterback. It's not. He has his flaws, my cousin Jake. But defensively, when you're out there a lot, you're going to get tired, but you're still going to get your job done, and they haven't gotten the job done just yet.
Yeah, I mean, we're 2 missed field goals away from beating the number 1 team in the league. So I mean, I guess we're not that terrible.
No, I think that the running joke is Calgary can't win on the road, but they can win at home. I don't believe that. I think it's all about matchups. How you match up against a team and how you put a complete game together. It's something about when Calgary plays Toronto or they play the East teams. They just play up to the level of the team they're playing. It may not be the highest, but for some reason they play below the standard of what a Calgary Stampeders team is.
Now we touched on Larry Thompson, new owner Larry, as I like to call him, Larry Distracted Driver Thompson. Didn't drive into that bench on purpose, did he?
Oh, never.
I've seen talk, and it's just rumors, I'm sure, but I've seen talk of Thompson wanting to change the team name back to the Eskimos or the Esks. Give us your thoughts on that if that were to happen.
It's interesting. So it's one of the most polarizing subjects whenever you bring it up here in Edmonton. And right now, with the Edmonton Elks doing fine, doing all right, getting some wins, now that we've seen home wins return to Commonwealth Stadium, now that we've seen fireworks return, now that we've seen the helmet, the inflatable helmet tunnel return, pyrotechnics, all of these things that we missed over the years, the chatter on the name change is just a little bit more quiet. It's just a little bit quieter. but you will never get rid of that name change topic. And Mr. Larry Thompson has indicated already via changing the primary logo to the double E's that there may be a name change incoming this offseason or next or the one after.
Yeah. Now, if you were to just change it to the Esks, you guys would only have to change one letter in your show name.
Exactly. We could be the Esks Herd or the Esks Call. It would be a little bit of an easier rebrand for us over here at the Elks Herd. At the same time, we'll cross that bridge whenever we got to get there. But me as a fan, do I want to see the name Eskimos return? Not necessarily, because if there are people out there that are offended by it, then, I can't really tell people what they're offended by. But once again, if there's a group of people that are offended by it, I'm not out here to go ahead and offend somebody by cheering for a team name. At the same time, I've grown to love this Elks brand. I think Elks fans right now are truly a special breed because we haven't complained about this name. We're still cheering for the team. We're still trying to enjoy Double E football as much as possible. And now that the team is winning, it feels like it's all worth it. Feels like this team has lost for way too long. Now, the term Edmonton Elks is also really associated with losing. So how do you kind of wash that and try to move forward? Well, the best of both worlds would be renaming the team to the Edmonton Esks. It's an ode to the new name. It's an ode to the old name. You kind of pick off two birds with one stone, as they say. So me personally, I do like the name Esks over Eskimos, but it's still Edmonton Elks for now. And the Edmonton Elks have finally put some pride back into this town, made these fans a little bit more prideful about the brand and the green and gold again. And to see that, hey, you never really thought it was going to happen with the 0-7 start to the season, but here we are. There is wins associated with the name Edmonton Elks.
Bo Levi Mitchell and Jake Mayer are at or near the top of most of the quarterback stats last I checked, yet their teams are at the bottom of the standings. First of all, what does it tell you when we see that? And in hindsight, did the Stamps make a huge mistake trading Bo, you think?
Well, I think part of it, and Jake Mayer, this happened last year too. I believe he was the only quarterback in the league who started all 18 games for his team. Yeah. Again, this year he was benched for one game, but he hasn't been hurt, missed any. So, if you're going to be a quarterback and you're going to stand upright for every game all season, that alone is going to put you up in the quarterback's statistical standings because that's pretty rare in the CFL that we see a quarterback make all 18 starts. And you'd have to think if I go around the league right now, whether anybody's done that this year, I don't believe anyone has. When I go through team by team, there's nobody who's done that. So, playing every game for one is going to put you high in the standings or put you on the upper half of the standings in general. And in Bo Levi Mitchell, it's fascinating because, he's leading the league in passing, leading the league in touchdowns. I believe his touchdown to interception ratio is about 26-14 now, I believe. Those are certainly, respectable numbers in any season. And, look, earlier in the year, there were a few things that were happening in Hamilton. Okay. And look, I'm actually glad the quarterback with the best stats isn't on the best team because it reinforces a point I always try to make about football. Okay. I understand that quarterbacks are going to get the most analysis and the most conversation, and people are going to look at their play to determine, how it's going to affect the outcome of a game. Completely agree. However, this is not golf and this is not tennis. Okay. And I do hear football discussed as if there's one guy on the team and not 46, right? For instance, wins and losses. I hate hearing quarterbacks evaluated by championship. Well, he's won so many Super Bowls or so many Grey Cups, and this guy only won. Yeah, if we were talking golf, sure. But, there's three sides of the ball in football, right? Defense, offense, and special teams. Quarterbacks only play on one of those, and you need somebody to block, and you need somebody to pass protect, and you need somebody to catch the football. Those are all key elements to offense that quarterbacks, don't have anything to do with. So I don't like I always am kind of trying to push back against the oversimplification of football just coming down to quarterbacks. In Hamilton's case, early in the season, penalties, turnovers, porous defense, right? So Bo's putting up lots of yards. And I think, there's something you're probably familiar with called complementary football. And what it means is basically how one side of the ball is playing will affect what another side of the ball is able to do. And I'll give you an example of kind of poor complementary football with Hamilton early in the season. Well, they're down early every game. The defense is getting run over. So what does Bo Levi Mitchell have to do when he's back there? Well, he's thinking to himself, if I don't throw for 1,000,000 yards and 5 touchdowns, we're not going to win. So he's taking chances maybe that he shouldn't be, or that he wouldn't want to take. But because of they're not getting the play, they're not being held in games by defense, he's got to take those kind of risks, right? Yeah. Now you look at what Hamilton's getting of late. They're getting better defensive play. They're not falling behind in every game. So again, complementary. That allows the complementary football that's come around in Hamilton is that Bo Levi Mitchell's able to make different kinds of decisions and play more within the structure that his coach wants him to see him play in, because his defense and his special teams are holding them in the game. And that's I think a big part of why you look at his numbers and say, well, this team might not even make the playoffs, and yet this guy leads the league in passing yards and touchdowns. Normally, that's a pretty good indicator that you're going to have a good season. But just a reminder, 46 guys on a roster, 3 sides of the ball, quarterback only plays one of them. And it's one of my, as you can tell, little football pet peeves, right?
Now, you had 4 or 5 great seasons in a row right before the canceled season. Then after that, you only played a couple half seasons. Is that because of an injury?
Not really. Not really.
Slow down and
most of the reason why is because COVID year kind of hurt my career for the most part. I dealt with something that, especially on the back end of my career at my age, I was really holding on for the most part, and I was maintaining great football play and maintaining a good career, and I was maintaining my body. I was still training, working out. And then when gyms got shut down, when physical activity went to a pause, I think he disappeared.
Yeah, so since you guys are both huge Stamps fans, let's get your thoughts on the Stampeders season. John, let's start with you.
Could it have been any worse?
It could have been. We could have lost to Saskatchewan at the end.
Well, Saskatchewan was playing second stringers. We have to remember that as well. So our first stringers versus their second stringers made for a pretty good football game. But it was a lot of turmoil around the Stampeders, a lot of just spinning the tires for me. Whenever I watched the Stampeders game, it was the same storyline. They're not getting quarterback play. They're not getting blocking. They're losing the battles in the trenches. And when you lose the trench battles, you're not going to be able to do anything on either side of the ball. If it wasn't for Rene Paredes, there wasn't a positive for me for the Stampeders this season, other than the fact that you got the message sent to you nice and clearly that you need to restart this thing. You are a truck stuck in the mud, spinning your tires. All due respect to Dave Dickinson, I think he wears too many hats in this organization, and I think it showed its head this year where he wasn't able to keep this team above water here. In my opinion, he needs to be general manager or the head coach and let somebody else take the reins on the other job and allow his coordinators to be more involved in the game plan and to maybe take over the play calling for him, lessen the load for Dave and allow him to do more things. And the front office really needs to help him out here with the player personnel side of things. A lot went wrong for the Stampeders. I don't want to sound like a negative Nelly, but when you only get a few wins on the season, it's hard not to be. I will say, though, the plan that we heard from their president, Jay McNeil, it sounds promising if you're a Stampeder fan. So hopefully the future is bright looking forward here. But there's a lot of work to do after a very disappointing season,
Yeah, I just watched that interview today, and it looks like Dave is sticking around as both head coach and GM. So
he is.
Well, Dave is like essentially the head coach, the GM, and the offensive coordinator.
Yeah,
it's crazy. It's like I just before coming on the pod here, I looked it up. No other team in the CFL has a head coach and GM. In the Lions, they have Rick Campbell as a co-GM, but not a full-time GM. So the Stamps are the only organization pretty much in professional football that has that structure. And I think that's a big miss. But when you take a look at the season as a whole, it was probably the worst season since like 2003, like the Kevin Federick days, which is
gross.
And you know, hey, as Stampeder fans, we've been spoiled rotten with some great football for a long time. So like this was inevitable. It was bound to happen. But the big thing for me was just entertainment. Like I went to 3 games this year. Every single one, the Stamps laid an egg. They were just stinkers. And to me, it all starts at quarterback. Jake Mayer had a terrible season. He was just a really, really bad, dull, not an entertaining quarterback whatsoever. I think everything starting next year starts with the quarterback. They got to find somebody, whether it's making a trade for Trey Ford or Nathan Rourke or VA or signing PJ Walker. Like they got to figure out the quarterback position because Jake Mayer has been terrible the last 3 years. Don't mean to rip on the guy, but he's not the answer. You're not going to win a Grey Cup with him.
Yeah, now I keep hearing talk about going and getting VA and going and getting Trey Ford. What makes people think that those 2 guys are going to be available? I mean, if you're BC, you can't get rid of VA.
Well, you gave Nathan all that money. They want to see that project.
That's true. That's true.
You want to see that project come to fruition. With Vernon and Trey, it's the fact that they are athletic. They're box office. You want that. You want that as your. It's almost like having a Lamar Jackson. The kids would love to see a quarterback those quarterbacks that athletic, that can run with the ball, that can throw the ball over a country mile, and can make plays and make your offense prolific. Now, when it comes to the big game, can they get it over the hump? I think Vernon can get it over the hump and win a Grey Cup anywhere he goes. He can go to Edmonton, and that I would love to see him go to Edmonton personally. That's just me. Him connect with Geno and those weapons. If they bring back those pieces and that defense, by God, Edmonton's a favorite. But that's neither here nor there. But if he goes to Calgary, we'll see what happens.
And here we go. Ready?